Hey, it is Andrew Clark here with the Bayview podcast, joined by
Hey, Chris Emery. So good to be here, man. Episode 0.
episode 0, first
Yeah,
one. Here we
First
go.
one. I feel like we should have some sort of like confetti cannon or
Yeah.
something. I don't know.
Maybe the confetti can would be dope.
Yeah,
So-
but maybe it's not that big a deal. That might be one
Yeah.
of those
We'll probably look back at this and be like, why did we do this? But well, sweet. I'm excited to be able to do this, and then I think the podcast thing has been pretty cool to listen to and be a part of, and you and I have been on a couple, and so to kind of get rolling with it. But first, let's kind of just talk. I mean, who is Chris Emery for those who maybe don't know you?
Well, I mean, I'm certainly I guess there's a lot of things I would say like, yeah, Chris is it, Chris is that. I mean, first and foremost, I'm just a follower of Jesus doing the best I can, and I think that that's something that you and I always try to communicate.
Yeah.
Whether we're on a podcast or whether we're on stage preaching, like there's never a moment where it's like, hey, we have all this figured out, so let's tell you how it goes. It's like, hey, we're grinding through this with you, and God's working on me every day like He is everyone else. I've been doing this pastoring thing for a long time. My first youth pastor job was in Anderson, Indiana.
Okay.
I was a junior in college. And
I've never even heard of Anderson, Indiana.
so yeah, man, it's kind of between Indianapolis and Fort Wayne a little bit, right off of I-69.
Okay.
And I was asked to come down. It was this little church, super cool pastor, Bob Pavey, just a great dude. Really love Bob and Marcia and their family.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a smaller old church, and really I think their heart was, hey, keep the kids out of our way.
Sure.
And so,
sure. Classic youth ministry.
yeah, let's hire a college kid who'll do that. But I kind of came in and we kind of got after it. It was kind of cool. But I would drive. It was about an hour drive, so I drive every Wednesday and Sunday about an hour, go down and do that. So I started that in like 1992 or 93, somewhere in that ballpark. So I've done youth pastor, a lot of student ministries. That was the first long stretch of my time. God moved us into young adult ministry, which was really, I don't want to say it's my most favorite because I don't want it to sound like the other parts of it aren't great.
Sure.
But man, it was good days. Like I really enjoyed that young adult slice.
Yeah.
But then we did something. I kept telling God, I'll never plant a church. Never plant a church. I'll never be a church planter. And I'm convinced God hears two prayers instantly. The ones that start with "I'll never,"
Yep.
and the other one that says "Teach me humility."
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I can get after that right now.
Yeah. It's like his favorite quote is "Never say never."
Exactly. Yeah. James Bond did not start that.
Yeah.
So we planted a church down in south of Birmingham, Alabama. We planted a coffeehouse church actually.
Cool.
So as a church, we actually purchased and owned and operated a full-scale coffee shop. Was not like Jesus Java. It wasn't Hebrews. Sorry, if you're listening, you have that in your lobby. I'm sorry. For multiple levels, I'm sorry. It was just a straight up coffee shop. And the whole goal was to just be in the community, just be in people's lives. So we did that. And then I've been a lead pastor here for 7 years this coming month, man.
Cool.
So, 7
years.
So we've kind of been all over the country.
Yeah.
We've been in New York. We've been in North Carolina. We've been in Alabama. Here in Michigan now.
Sweet.
Love the privilege of it.
Yeah.
God's taught me some hard lessons along the way. Probably the biggest lesson I've learned was that what we do here is this really fragile privilege.
Yeah.
That He has tapped anybody in vocational ministry. Everybody's in ministry, right?
Yep.
But vocational ministry, there's something unique when God taps you on the shoulder and says, I'm going to bless you with this privilege, but don't ruin it. Don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
Because it's an honor. So, I'm a pastor's kid like you.
Yeah.
Grew up in the church, grew up carrying tables and chairs in the fellowship hall every week. Back before Lifetime created these plastic things. Pastor's kids now are soft.
Yeah.
They don't get it.
Yeah, it's too easy.
They don't get it. They got to go back to the cast iron fellowship hall tables. Right?
So the classic, you were born in the church, lived in the church. Like I think that's my favorite thing of like the pastor's kid mentality or thought was just like, and I've shared it before on stage or stuff like that in different sermons, but it's like, there's like that assumption of, I'm always here. Like this is just my second home is the church building. So
yeah.
Yeah,
but I don't remember. I don't feel like I came out of any of that with any of the pastor kid like angst or
Yeah.
regrets or
Yeah.
I haven't had to seek counseling because I was a pastor's kid.
Yep.
You know, I've gone to counseling because I'm a jacked up dude, but I'm not because I'm a pastor's kid.
Yeah.
You know, funny thing growing up where we did in San Diego, when we first got there, it was a really small church, and we did live in the church parsonage, so we did live at church.
Yeah.
Like it was literally shared the parking lot.
Yep.
I think there was a Sunday school class that met in our living room every Sunday. I don't even think they asked.
Yep.
I think they just showed up one Sunday, like, sorry, church parsonage, we're doing what we want. We're like, well, we're in our underoos. What's up?
Yep.
So, yeah. But it's been good, man.
It's
married. Just celebrated my 28th wedding anniversary.
Wow, congrats.
Got 4 kids. Got 1 daughter-in-law. Getting ready to get 2 more in-law kids next summer.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's crazy. 2 grandkids that just are the best. So,
Dude,
man,
that's
life
awesome.
happens, man. It's been moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was quick.
It does, man. And you know, you and I, we've been doing this thing professionally now, man, only about a year together.
Yeah.
But we've known each other longer than that. We go back a couple years.
Yeah. And I was trying to think through that. I was talking with one of my buddies about like the connection between you and I, and it's like I remember like 2016 might be the first time I'd met you in passing because you came and did an event at the student ministry I was a part of.
I did, yeah.
And it was just kind of like, oh, this is Chris Emery. And I was like, okay, cool. Oh, he's from the tab. Okay, cool. And it was just like, but I just moved back up to Traverse City from Grand Rapids, like, and that was like a whirlwind time.
It was like a big fall kickoff outside, right?
Yeah, that's how we started the year. We did
Yeah.
way too much work to set up staging and moved all this stuff out and didn't really ask for permission, just did it. And then we had a bunch of kids show up, and then, you came and
Youth Ministry 101.
brought the tent
101.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, asked for forgiveness after. So
100%.
But that's awesome. So 7 years here at Bayview.
Yeah.
Has this been the longest place you've been, or is it coming up on?
You know what? It kind of is. Weird you should ask that because it really kind of is. Like my wife and I have been looking back, and not that this has ever been by design, but it seems like everywhere we go, God has us there in that 6 to 7 year stretch.
Yeah.
And so coming up on finishing our 7th year, this is the longest time I've spent at one church. And I'm excited because I've always kind of had this I don't want to say envious, but I've always watched guys that are at a place for 10, 15, even 20 years.
Yeah.
And I'm just watching them reap the harvest, that fruit of long-term relationships. And in a lot of ways, I'm starting to feel that like, wow, 7 years in, I feel like we're just getting started.
Yeah.
Like we're still figuring stuff out. I mean,
Sure.
you know, we make more mistakes and we make right decisions, but
Yep.
we're learning from them. So yeah, I'm excited. You know, God's in control, hands down. I'm not gonna tell God never, right?
Yep.
But man, my heart, my passion always is, hey, what if this were the last church I ever pastored?
Yeah.
What if this is it? I'd be super content with that to see what God has in store for us here and how He continues to push us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, man.
That's super cool.
And you just finished your first full year actually here with us.
Yep.
Super cool. You've been in Traverse City a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, born and raised in Traverse City, and then I spent a lot of time in Grand Rapids between college, and that's where I worked at the first church I was at. So I've been in ministry since, well, like you kind of said, it feels like your whole life. I think even like middle school, high school, just being a part of youth group, and you start doing the mission trips, and you start doing all that stuff. You're kind of like, okay, like, you know, I had some really good people in my life who spoke to, and even my dad who spoke to, like, man, it's not just walking up on a stage. It's not just making sure you have the lights on, but like actually how you live your life and how you interact with people. But yeah, went down to Grand Rapids, went to school down there, and then got my first job as a senior in college at a little church there, kind of connected to the school. And it was one of those like classic, I knew the guy who knew a guy, and they're like, hey, we need a guy. And I was like, I can be that guy. And so kind of did that, was down there for 2-3 years, and then got married down there. That's where I met my wife, Nicole, and then we moved back up to Traverse, and we're up here. I mean, we've been up here since 2015.
Yeah.
Back up, and then been a student pastor, and then kind of moved into this position here at Bayview, family and teaching. So still doing student stuff, but getting to teach a lot more, which is a passion of mine, and kind of doing some other, or hopefully begin to do some other areas of influence or whatever you want to call. But I don't know. It's been awesome for my family to be here. So it's been kind of a godsend thing. So
cool.
Even we just finished our big camp, and
Yeah.
a couple area churches all came together. And I remember, and most people would bring it up, but it was like, that was the dream. That was always the dream of like, hey, can we do camp and have like, will other people join in?
Right.
And I always thought it was possible. It just, you never know how God's timing is going to work.
Right.
Yeah. I would have guessed it would have been with the other church I was at. I would have guessed it would have been like, a couple years earlier, but to have been up here, 6-7 years now, and now to see it coming, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And it was just a reminder of like, okay, God's got it.
Yeah.
I mean, he hears your prayers. He knows the thoughts. And if you kind of stay in line with it, how he's going to work it out. So,
absolutely.
Even if it's never how you thought it was going to happen. So that was been pretty cool. But yeah, I've been married. It'll be 10 years in August.
Nice.
That's wild.
10 years, man. Boom.
It does not feel like I should be married for 10 years, but
all right. So not to give any big secrets away, you're doing something big for the 10th anniversary, because there's certain big benchmark anniversaries.
Yeah.
10 years, that's a big deal.
Yeah. We've thrown probably about 100 different darts at the wall just for trying to see what sticks. Because we do have 2 young kids, 3 and 1, and so that's the fun part too of like, okay, how do we balance that? But there's some stuff in the works, stuff we're talking about. So, but it's just wild. Like that's, there's so many things you look back and like, okay, like we've learned a lot, and there's still just so much to learn. And
absolutely, man.
But it's a good thing.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
But
well, and I think you and I share kind of a similar story in that, we have a lot of similarities. I mean, we grew up pastors' kids. I think we both had the beautiful advantage of watching our dads do it well and find success in ministry, which success in ministry, I know for guys getting into it, it's like, well, of course, that's what we all want. But that's a slippery slope.
Yep.
Success is oftentimes one of the bigger downfalls that drag guys down. And so I think we've had the beautiful advantage. You said you learned from your dad how it's like, hey, it's not just who you are on stage, it's off the stage. And, I got to watch my dad do that. I got to watch my dad, spend so much time in one-on-one evangelism, just loving on people and watching people get saved in the living room, and watching him, my mom, just model hospitality and loving people so well. And like I said, I don't think I walked away with any of those pastor kid issues, because I don't remember feeling ever like my dad chose the church over us.
Yeah.
Now there's busy times. There are busy times in ministries, right? I mean,
there's seasons and
there are
holidays, and
and there's stretches building up towards different on ramps of ministry. Yeah, there's times where we're here a lot more, but so I think that's cool that you and I kind of share that same path, and and we both have some pretty dark, deep valleys that we've had to go through to get here, and I'm sure in the coming episodes and months and I don't know years, I'm sure we'll have our stories play a role in different moments, but we're here.
Yeah. We're here. So we made it. But no, it's good. And no, I've just been encouraged, and even when we started having the idea of in the conversation of should we start a podcast, and the question always I think gets brought up like, okay, another podcast. Like I feel like when podcasts first started, it was like, wow, this is a really cool concept. Yeah. And now it's like, okay, there's just everyone's doing a podcast.
Absolutely.
And so I don't know, from your perspective, like why another podcast? Like why would we do this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I kind of had that same thought of like, hey, do we really need another one? It's like, I've had people over the years like, hey, why don't you write a book? I'm like, do we really need another book?
Sure.
I've got a library full of books that I've half read at best, so we don't need that. But it's been interesting over the last few years as I travel and speak at different events. I don't know if you've experienced this or not. I get asked that question more often now of like, hey, so what's your podcast?
Oh, sure.
I'll get done, speaking at an event or a conference or a camp retreat, and like, all different ages. Hey, so what's your podcast? I'm like, well, I don't really have one of those yet.
Yeah.
So part that kind of started planting that seed. And then we got into this. I'm like, I think the level one of it, and God's going to determine where all it goes. It's really for the people, maybe, we call it the Bayview podcast, because I think initially for me, right out of the gate, it's for the people that maybe call Bayview home or that are within our circle of influence, just to continue to offer it as like a resource or another way, just to give you another way to equip and encourage and get you through the week. We talk about all the time that church is not about what we do when we gather on Sunday mornings. That's that halftime. You and I are both former, college athletes, and so that halftime speech was always big.
Yep.
You came off of a half, whether it was a good half. Okay, you come off a good half, and the coach is like, all right, so how do we keep that momentum?
Yep.
How do we not get tired of success? You come off a bad half. All right, how do we tweak it? How do we adjust? Who's hitting the bench? Who's coming in? Because the second half coming.
Yeah.
And I think with those of us that are following Jesus, we have to live with that mentality. The second half is always coming. Second half is always coming. And so Sunday morning being that halftime speech where you or I or any of our other teaching team have that opportunity to pour into our folks.
Yeah.
But man, it's the game starts when you get home that day, when you get up the next morning. And so I think for me, part of it was like, all right, hey, how do we just give a little something more to where our folks can kind of tune in the middle of the week?
Yeah.
Grab some time with you and I, grab some time with our guests.
Yeah.
And have a little bit that midweek, like, here you go. Here's a little booster shot.
Yeah.
So I think initially that was where my heart was on it.
Yeah. No, you use the word resource, and I think that's what I keep coming back to is that idea of like, or even the halftime speech thing, I think is a great analogy for it. We're just like, I don't know, hopefully we'll have some people on that will inspire you. Hopefully we'll have some conversations that'll inspire you. But hopefully we'll create a resource that we can point back to. And so if you're going through something or there seems to be like that little kind of influence you need or to push you forward, like we've created this thing that's like, hey, this is a deeper teaching, maybe stuff that we couldn't touch on Sunday mornings. Maybe you're doing a Bible study and you're going through a certain book, and maybe this could, maybe we have something that lines up with that.
Yeah.
Maybe we have a conversation that surrounds a certain topic that we're able to spend X amount of time on that couldn't do from a stage on a Sunday, or maybe isn't designed for a Sunday school or a Bible study, but you can go back to and grab. And so I love the word resource when it comes to this. Because I think there'll be a lot of times when it's just kind of you and I up here having a conversation about something. Yeah. And I think it's a good way to connect. Like that's what I've noticed from other podcasts that I've listened to or ones that I find really interesting is it's just really good conversation.
Yep.
But it's fun to like, the more you listen, you start to pick up on like who that person is and what that person's about. And it almost is like, maybe without ever fully meeting them or having a deep conversation with them, like, okay, I kind of know that person.
Yeah.
And I do think for you and I and the roles we play, you as, a lead pastor and of growing church, and you do a lot of itinerant speaking, and you travel and speak places, like there's a great chance to say, hey, this is what we're also about. Yeah. And I think this is what, we believe on certain things. I think that's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's something where if it's just our people who listen,
great.
That's awesome. That's kind of the point. That's the resource idea. And if it goes somewhere else, that would be cool too. And it's like you said, God's got the idea and he's going to roll with it.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm kind of comfortable kind of being just kind of thrown in that mix of like, hey, here's another podcast, not in a negative way. Like sometimes you hear like, oh, another podcast, like kind of derogatory. It's like, no, I'm cool. I'm being another podcast. So another way. Yeah. We've talked about this before, like, this day and age, I don't think there's ever been a time in history where an individual has more access to anything they want right at their fingertips. Now, there's a choice to be had there. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are choosing a lot of destructive things through that. Yeah. But for those that are doing our best to kind of, keep Jesus in the crosshairs and keep chasing him, I think that we have so many opportunities now to turn off the music and turn on something that's going to equip me or encourage me to connect with different things. So I'm cool now. It's kind of like, I'm excited to be another podcast. Yeah. We're another podcast for you. Yeah. There's some great ones out there. You and I listen to a lot of them. We've been on some of them. Yeah. But we're another one. I don't know that, not worried about if we're the best, not worried about if whatever, that's whatever. Yeah. But it's just something we get to do. And the reality is, along with why we're doing this, kind of having a very clear understanding right out of the gate. So if you're listening to here episode 0 and you're like, all right, am I going to follow this or not? Let's make sure we clear up any misplaced expectations. Sure. Right? We are not qualified to do a podcast, meaning this, and I'm not an expert in all this. Like, I don't have all this figured out. Yeah. We were laughing before, and I'm, I'm an expert at making a mess of things.
Sure.
I can do that pretty well.
Yep.
I'm an expert of getting my attitude out of whack, or I'm an expert of saying the wrong thing. Sometimes, I'm an expert in all the same things that we're all experts in. And at the end of the day, I guess I'm an expert at needing Jesus more and more.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for this isn't like the YouTube DIY thing of how to make sure that you nail that Jesus life.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. You don't want to see me with tools in my hands, anyways. So I'm excited to hopefully learn just as much. I mean, that is kind of this podcast, this form feels like a really natural way to sit and have a conversation. And I don't know about you, but I find myself sometimes sitting around a bonfire in a certain space with people, and I'm just like, you finish a conversation man, I needed that.
Yeah.
And I could think of 8 other people who needed that same conversation.
Yeah.
And I think this allows that to be more of a possibility.
Oh, absolutely.
We've created this space even here at the church that I think can be hopefully a lot of life and a lot of really good conversation can happen in.
Yeah.
And that excites me about this kind of format of a resource and things that we're doing. And then I also do like the idea of that we should be lifelong learners. And so hopefully we're going to have some people in here who will challenge us, and hopefully have some conversations that'll push us deeper, that we'll need to feel more prepared for. But I agree with you. Not being an expert means we just get to have fun.
Yeah. Well, and there's something you said, campfire. Like, man, yeah, I talk around a campfire a lot better.
Yeah.
I don't know, producer over here. Can we do a campfire? Can we get with a tabletop solo stove? Does that work?
That'd be awesome.
Man, have a little fire here. And this guy, man, we pouring it out, just spreading all of our, pouring our heart out. Yeah, staring at the flames. Yeah,
be like an ASMR podcast.
We probably have 5 minutes. We're both just silent, staring at the flames, like you do at a campfire. Like, oh man, where we go?
That'd be incredible.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think having fun and just being real it's kind of the heart of what we do anyway. I don't think that is a deviation of how we do every day.
Sure.
That's kind of the culture and the climate here at Bayview. I hope for all of our team is that, we've got a mission to do. We've got stuff to get after, but along the way, man, we can have so much time to enjoy each other as we do that, to enjoy our time together, to laugh, to be silly, to catch our breath and to enjoy the different moments we have. And I think that there is something about that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to just having some of those times.
Yeah.
Having it with our guests, having it here, and it's gonna be good.
Awesome.
I hope you join us.
Yeah.
And I hope it's something that is equipping. I hope it is a resource. I hope something that really does kind of, you find really helpful.
Yeah.
Through the course of the week. I know I'm going to look forward to this time.
Yeah.
Each week. Being episode 0, I do feel like we want to make sure, because I don't know if we'll do this all the time, but right now if you're watching or listening, the sound is great. If you're watching, the video quality is great. There's all these cool camera shots, all that. Let me be clear. Andrew and I had nothing to do with that.
Oh no. Yeah. Nothing at all.
I have no idea how any of this works right now. Like there's a wire here. I don't know where this goes. I have no idea where this is connected to.
This whole time I've been thinking, can I actually be heard anywhere? I don't know how. Yeah, you're right. I don't know what's going on.
This is really the result of a lot of hard work and vision from a couple other dudes. Mainly, leading that charge was our digital campus pastor, Brock Emery, who just had this vision to say, hey, we need to do this. And he went after it. And then Jeremy Radke, our technical director. I mean, I don't know how much time they spent in here wiring up the studio, getting it all tweaked up. Yeah. I know that Brock was here early this morning, just even getting lighting right and all that. And so, we're really benefiting from their heart and their 100%. Passion. And even though we're going to get them on here, I think we're going to have we'll have them as guests at some point. It's really, as always, right? Yeah. It's the guys behind the scenes that are doing the hard work and that make it happen. Like you and I just get to sit here and yap into a microphone.
Yeah.
So thank you to those guys for their heart, their passion,
very
their
much
vision
appreciated.
For this.
Yeah.
So it's going to be good. So we're going to be coming to you each week.
Yep.
It'll be different things, different ideas. It's not going to be in just one lane. So I don't think we want to lock ourselves in.
No, and that's the exciting part. Is I think that I do believe there'll be something for everyone.
Yep.
So what that all looks like, we're gonna find out. But
let's find out. That's
but
right.
I think it's gonna be good.
It's like back. I'm a big Seinfeld fan, and I remember the episode, and I know that dates me. Some of you are like Seinfeld, where they're
The
pitching
show
the
on
idea.
Netflix?
Huh?
The show on Netflix?
Yeah, the show on Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah. They did start on Netflix. Thank you very much. Started on, I think, Thursday nights back before you had DVR. But the whole premise is that it's a show about nothing.
Yeah.
And they pitched it in an episode to NBC, like a show about nothing. What'd you do today? Well, I had a cup of coffee and that's a show. And
Yeah.
it's like I don't think it's a show about nothing, but it is a show that's going to be about something. We just don't know what yet.
Yeah.
So
that's so good.
It's going to be on all the platforms. So wherever you normally find your podcast, it's going to be on Spotify, Apple Podcast,
YouTube,
everything. Yeah. So just keep a watch on that. We'll make sure and get the links out there and make sure it's super easy accessible for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so hey, this is Chris. This is Andrew. We're going to come to you each week, and we just look forward to spending this time with you.
Yeah.
So hopefully you tune in, and we'll see you next time around.
Yeah.